I had a few queries. So I
Yeah.
thought, at whatever stage you allow for us to kind of just recap these very important concepts, we should be able to do that. Because if you see the latest response that was sent, which was in reply to this American lady, the first line of it itself says that why are we doing this? He says to find the divine is indeed the first reason for seeking the spiritual truth and the spiritual life. So that, I think, as a group, that's what we're trying to do. So what have we understood, and are we crystal clear with these concepts, is something I thought we could have a short chat and then we could go forward.
Um, you mean the inner mental, inner vital, etc.
No, no, I was starting from, you see, we were given the traits of each of these uh, entities that we were told are there, right? Right from the central
But
being, or
Mhm. Yeah.
or the Jivatman. And there was a short piece that you kind of tried to give a summary in the last session, right? I just had a couple of queries on that. So I thought at whatever stage
Okay.
you want, if we could just be crystal clear, at least I wanted to have that
Whatever your
clarity.
queries you have, you can start with them.
Okay.
And once that is over, because we tried to recap last time, and
I heard that.
again and again, yeah, I asked people whether it is clear or not. So that is why we had thought, but that's okay. Whatever questions you have, please go ahead. And once that is over, then we can start with the verses.
Perfect. Perfect.
Just wait a couple of minutes. Um, okay, 1 minute. This is on the Gita. Kalpana, she takes a little time to join. Yeah. You can start, Yogesh ji. Tell me.
Yeah, yeah. So, Anmol, if you look at the terms that we got introduced, which are all poises of that one Paramatman. So, we started with the absolute oneness, which is the Paramatman.
Yeah.
That same Paramatman, these are now different poises of the Paramatman. There was the Jivatman then, which we got introduced that this is the poise of the Jivatman. Then we were introduced to the psychic entity or the soul spark, and then the psychic being, which is the personality of which develops. Because initially it says that the person is very much identified with the mental, vital, physical. But as this journey of the psychic being begins, it comes to an interim place, which is the internal, mental, vital,
Uh,
and physical. So
Inner
that is
mental,
a
inner vital, or inner physical. Huh?
so this is so it there's a clear distinction between, and it said then there is the innermost. And so it categorically said that the journey begins from the ego consciousness. That is what we studied over the last, that the ego consciousness is a complete identification with the mental, vital, and the physical. But then comes this widening, and that is where the spiritual journey begins. The psychic being starts getting developed. Now if we look at this was the complete journey to the reality of the Paramatman, who's in all of these poises. Now as we are discussing this, the Paramatman, the central being, the psychic soul spark, the psychic being, all of them are now present. All of these are there, but it's just a journey, right? So as you evolve, you understand and experience. And this is what this letter that you sent out saying, that that's what our whole focus of this birth is, to get there, right? So now my question to you is that while we are now understanding these concepts, each of these poises is actually physically, mentally, spiritually all available now. We may have not realized it, that's fine, but the Paramatman is there on the call right now. The central being is there. So is each of the other three entities that we talked about, because there is a journey that's begun for all of us as the psychic being. So it's not as if we are identifying with the mental, vital, and physical. So if you go top down, because there are two ways of looking at it. One is that we start expanding from the initial stage of the ego consciousness and evolve, or we start from the reality, which is only one, which is the Paramatman. And as per the explanation, the description given, we come down to the poises, which are all poises of the same Paramatman, right? Either which way you could just elaborate. starting from the Paramatman or going up from the ego consciousness?
No. So first things first, okay? Paramatman, all right, that is the supreme self, that is the divine, okay? But right now, where you are, okay, you are in the evolution, okay? Evolution happens on earth, so we say terrestrial evolution. And in the evolution, you are the psychic being. Okay, that is the
Right.
first thing. That is why Sri Aurobindo says the first thing to be done in the Purna Yoga, integral yoga, is to find the psychic being. ठीक है, तो आप एक psychic being हैं in the evolution. Now, if you say कि आप top से start करें, certainly you can have glimpses of the Paramatman uh, now and then, या more frequently, depending on your maturity. ठीक है, but those glimpses, they are glimpses in the beginning. You can have a very liberating experience. Like, for example, it is quite possible for somebody to just read any book of Sri Aurobindo and feel an absolute liberation. He's like kind of glimpsing and touching that Paramatman. Fine. But will it remain stable in that consciousness? No. He will come back to that poise of Jivatman. I mean, अगर किसी का total absorption हो जाता है in the Paramatman, even for, I mean, even a few minutes, that's a very big thing. It will be a very big milestone in the evolutionary journey of the person. What I am saying is कि for the sake of understanding, ठीक है, we start from the beginning because like that is the top and that is from where everything has come, right? And that is one of the main things we have to correct in ourselves. When I say correct, what I mean is that, you know, the Western hemisphere basically it tries to go bottom up. And because it tries to go bottom up, which is natural, that is why it is not able to understand many things. But here in India, where, you know, the top has been already reached and the depths have been already fathomed and everything, so you know that knowledge is already there basically. तो वो bottom up approach काम नहीं करता है. One has to, for the sake of understanding, start from the top. But experientially, this I am saying theoretically, और वो experience भी आपको मिल सकता है, ऐसी बात नहीं है. But you know, from the near to the far ऐसे कहते हैं. So the Paramatman is, in that sense, it is within you. Dehe asmin purushah parah, Gita says 13.23 में, I think. ठीक है, परमा पुरुषः Dehe asmin purushah parah. So purushah parah is a kind of synonym for Paramatma only, right? But वो उस तक पहुंचने के लिए and to have a what should I say, a clear experience of the Paramatman, it is not something just like that. I may add that, you know, the matlab, Guru, if you want to say, who we are following, Sri Aurobindo, he himself had it, in my understanding, for the first time after 7 years of very, very intense yoga. It happened to him in 1912. He calls it Parabrahman. He says, I had a dwelling in the Parabrahman for several hours. This is the phrase he writes in a letter to his friend, Motilal Roy. Okay. So, and that was also for a few hours, right? So, to come back, we are in the evolution, we are the psychic being. Okay. What is the psychic being? It is a portion of the divine. So, we have to, अच्छा, कैसे उसको बढ़ाना है, कैसे उसको प्राप्त करना है? The first question is basically how to get into this total psychic consciousness. The simplest straightforward answer is bhakti. Okay, and again, all kind of bhakti is welcome. Mental bhakti, vital bhakti, that is welcome. Okay, but the real bhakti is जिसको बोलते हैं शुद्ध अहैतुकी भक्ति, wherein this feeling starts overtaking the person that I love the divine simply because he is he and I am I, and I cannot help it. मेरा बस नहीं चल रहा है. You are so irresistibly attracted towards your source कि you know आपका आपके ऊपर कंट्रोल नहीं है. Even if you want to do anything else in life, that psychic being will not allow you. It will make yoga, it will make union with the divine the topmost priority of your life. वो initially priority रहेगा, gradually it will totally consume you. Nothing will be left. Only एक ही burning aspiration रहेगा. All the time there is only one thing you want, and that is union with your source, union with the divine, right? This is the psychic being. उसको उसकी तरफ अग्रसर होने के क्या तरीके हैं? Obviously, जो उसके हमने 3 signs बताए थे, as told by Sri Aurobindo, the attraction towards everything true, good, and beautiful, right? So all true movements in you, seeking for truth. Okay, be uncompromising in your seeking for truth. There should not be any compromise in that. And truth means completeness. Truth means infinity. Whatever is trying to limit us, that is not true. Like that. Bhakti. वही जो सारा हमने डिस्कस किया है बेसिकली साइकिक में गोइंग विद इन. अब अच्छा इफ यू आर नॉट एबल टू, ऑब्वियसली इट्स नॉट इजी कि सीधा बस बैठे और हार्ट के अंदर ध्यान चला गया. इट्स नॉट इजी. उसके लिए अभ्यास लगता है, प्रैक्टिस लगती है. बट वन कैन ट्राई टू मेडिटेट इन द हार्ट रीजन. One can use the help of a name or a mantra and try to basically put the awareness here in the heart region. There are some guided meditations and all. एक है, I'll share it. It's there on the internet. Shadalu Ranade का है. I'll share it. So basically that, and psychic education करके एक article है मदर का. In that she has given the do's and don'ts. That has already been pasted on the group earlier. So या तो we read that article one of those days, मतलब कभी भी पढ़ सकते हैं. But then again, we can do it. We can do it. So does that answer somewhat what I'm saying?
Thank you so much. Anmol, the only place that I was trying to focus and get our clarity was that the psychic entity or the soul spark, which is actually existing by being this aspect of only in adoration, and the qualities of that was explained and very well. Those 5 qualities that you gave us a separate, you said, look, we should read it every day, where it starts with complete devotion, right? So that psychic entity is a state of no mind. So as we said, the inner vital, inner mind, inner vital, inner physical.
I am sorry, just 1 second. So one of the things which mother says, how to distinguish the psychic being in you, she says it is something totally different from your mental, vital or physical movements. So none of the physical consciousness, none of the vital consciousness, none of the mental consciousness, that is not the psychic. It is something distinct from these 3. So, and normally we are identified with these 3 only. So that is why, the effort has to be made. And that is there. What else?
So what I was saying is that, as you rightly explained, that the psychic entity of being in a space which is not the mental, vital and physical, that silence that you experience when there is meditation, as you were saying, is a separate experience from the, so at least that in some which way, if you experience, you realize that there is no mental there, there's no vital, and there is no physical. So there is a clear distinction.
Yeah, when you are in that consciousness, you will not feel these things. You will not feel these movements.
Correct. And when you do not feel these movements, because you go there for some time, as you said, you may be meditating or whatever, you get a glimpse, but then you again come back into the mental or the vital physical. So you come back. So therefore, it is a psychic personality or a psychic being which is evolving, because it's not
which basically which carries forward the thread, and which basically, as it becomes stronger and stronger, so it starts exerting its influence on the mind, vital and body, and basically starts turning the whole life towards the divine. So all what are the signs that the psychic being is coming forward? You cannot not think of the divine all the time. Matlab, whatever your thoughts are, they are either coming from him or going towards him. It's like some kind of thing has possessed your mind, possessed in the right sense, So, and that is what is the, basically you can say, the psychicization of the mind. Ki all the thoughts are turning towards the Yomam smarati nityashah. He who remembers me constantly. This is a sign, like that. The vital wants to serve the divine. The vital will feel ki it is not getting its fulfillment by, showing its energy or showing its power by doing ordinary things. It wants to place itself at the disposal of the divine. It wants to serve the divine. उसको satisfaction नहीं होगा, वो तड़पने लगेगा कि यार मेरे अंदर इतनी शक्ति है, ये सब है, but इसका क्या फायदा if I am not able to put it at the service of the divine, like that. The physical will start very sensitive towards beauty, and even matlab softness, beauty, all these things, and matlab anything which is inconsistent with truth, anything which is jarring or anything, that sense of beauty will become very acute, and it will go to that extent कि जब तक मैं उस all beautiful को नहीं देख लेता, तब तक मेरा तो कुछ नहीं हो सकता. I mean, you will start dying for it. And these are, I mean, I'm using very strong words, that, and this has to completely overtake oneself. And the more this is, and that's why, it becomes sometimes difficult for people to remain in the company of normal people because they start becoming so sensitive. That's why some kind of retreat or some kind of seclusion is even necessary. ये हो जाता है. Like,
Right, right. So, Anmol, this gives very much a
and
clear, crisp understanding of the psychic being and the psychic entity. But
yes,
the next level, the next
central
poise,
being.
which is an evolution, which is the spiritual poise,
Huh.
because it says about the central being
Yeah.
or the Jivatman, which is presiding.
Yeah.
It gives you a clear, the word which came again and again is presiding. So
Yes.
presiding is not a silent witness. When you
Yes.
preside over someone, you're like
Yes.
an adhyaksh, right?
Yes. Yes.
So that I couldn't, if like till here,
Yeah.
whatever you've explained of the psychic being and the psychic entity, there was at least an idea of clarity. If you could just elaborate a bit more about the central being or the presiding
See,
consciousness plane, what is that?
basically,
Because that is a change from the psychic to a spiritual plane, which I really didn't understand.
correct. So it is basically your true being in the sense that it is immortal, it is without birth, without death, etc. And what it means by preside is that it sort of oversees the evolution from above. Okay. And how it exerts control over the evolution. As you rightly said, it is not just witness. The president also acts when necessary. Correct. So that action of that president happens through either of the purushas which are there in the human consciousness, either the manomaya or the pranamaya or the annamaya or the true one itself, which is the chaitya purusha. So as this is what I understand, because here now in the terrestrial manifestation, the control cannot be directly by something which is beyond this manifestation. It has to act through one of its representatives, and these are the four representatives, and depending on the stage of evolution of the person, through any of these he will be controlling the evolution like that. But if the nature is in too much disarray, if there is too much, what should I say, blind involvement or absolutely, unabated, uncontrolled movements in the nature, then there is a kind of disconnect. And then, I mean, the person can behave in a very abnormal sort of way. So obviously that does not happen usually. But did you get the answer? So the control is through basically either of these purushas. By
Okay, so
itself,
Anmol,
yeah.
yeah, so if you take this call right now, there are multiple individuals, all of them, because Jivatman or the central being is an individual aspect of a
We are
presid.
Jivatmans.
Correct. We're all Jivatmans, and the fact that it presides this perfect synchronization that at this call there will be X number of people.
Hmm.
That means the Jivatman in each of us has presided to make this experience
Exactly.
be, and the Jivatman for each
Exactly.
of us is currently available
Exactly.
and experiencing
Somewhere,
this.
somewhere, the connection of our psychic being or our psychic entity with the Jivatman, that connection is always there, right? It is because of that connection with the true poise of our, individuality. It is somewhere that which, despite all the obstacles, despite all the difficulties, despite all the circumstances, is bringing us together to again and again, engage with this study so that we can get more clarity on our evolution. Certainly, what you are saying is correct.
Perfect. And the last part is because we are still in an individual Jivatman consciousness, which is orchestrated, each of us, being synchronized at this moment. The fact that there's a collective 10 people or more on this call is the Paramatman now in each one of us as the Jivatman experiencing this as a collective.
Yeah,
Is that a
Jiva,
right thought?
yeah,
The
Jivatman. See,
Paramatman.
yeah, see, Paramatman is the thing which is there, the common entity inside everybody, right? In the Isha Upanishad, it is simply called Atman. Okay. Jivatman is the individual poise of that. But yes, if you want to say what is the common factor which is linking all these Jivatmans, then that common factor is the Paramatman. Krishna puts it like this: Mai sarvam idam protam sutre manigana iva. All this is strung in me like pearls on a thread. So he is basically the connecting thread who is connecting each of these individual pearls together. So yeah, correct.
Okay. Thanks, Anu.
Okay. Okay. So anybody else has any questions or anything regarding this? Otherwise, we move on to first Sarita. Sarita, is she there? Ah, she's there. First, singing these verses, and then we go to the individual verses. Anybody? No? Sarita, you can go ahead.
Yeah,
Are the verses visible on screen? Yeah, first verse is visible.
yeah.
Go.
I'll just do the beginning thing.
Yeah, as you like, whatever is your way.
ॐ श्री परमात्मने नमः। श्रीमद्भगवद्गीता अथ द्वादशोऽध्यायः। अद्वेष्टा सर्वभूतानां मैत्रः करुण एव च निर्ममो निरहङ्कारः समदुःखसुखः शमी सन्तुष्टः सततं योगी यतात्मा दृढनिश्चयः मय्यर्पितमनो बुद्धिर्यो मद्भक्तः स मे प्रियः यस्मान्नो द्विजते लोको लोकान्नो द्विजते च यः हर्षमर्षभयोद्वेगैः मुक्तो यः मुक्तो यः स च मे प्रियः अनपेक्षः शुचिर्दक्ष उदासीनो गतव्यथः सर्वारम्भपरित्यागी यो मद्भक्तः स मे प्रियः यो न हृष्यति न द्वेष्टि न शोचति न काङ्क्षति शुभाशुभपरित्यागी भक्तिमान्यः स मे प्रियः समः शत्रौ च मित्रे च तथा मानापमानयोः शीतोष्णसुखदुःखेषु समः सङ्गविवर्जितः तुल्यनिन्दास्तुतिर्मौनी सन्तुष्टो येन केनचित् अनिकेतः स्थिरमतिः भक्तिमान् मे प्रियो नरः ये तु धर्म्यामृतमिदं यथोक्तं पर्युपासते श्रद्धाना मत्परमा भक्तास्तेतीव मे प्रियाः ॐ तत्सदिति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासु उपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुनसंवादे भक्तियोगो नाम द्वादशोऽध्यायः। हरि ओं तत्सत् हरि ओं तत्सत् हरि ओं तत्सत् ॐ श्रीकृष्णार्पणमस्तु।
Thank you, Sarita. Beautiful. Very beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So that sentence from the letters, the natural attitude of the psychic being is to feel itself the child, the son of God, the bhakta. So from the third word in that, the bhakta, as per Dhaval Bhai's suggestion, a very good suggestion, we are taking up these verses, last 8 verses of the 12th chapter of the Gita. The chapter title is Bhakti Yoga. And these are some of the characteristics of a bhakta who is dear to the divine, like that. Okay. So this is basically the translation that is here on these screens is from the book called The Message of the Gita, edited by Anil Baran Roy. Right? Anil Baran Roy was one of the first generation disciples of Sri Aurobindo. I might say here, I mean, to increase faith in him, that in front of his name in the record of yoga, Sri Aurobindo has written the name of Vivekananda. There is that page where in front of the names of some disciples, he has written names of some great figures, spiritual figures. So what it means is that he was having at least something of Vivekananda in him, some emanation or something. So basically, not an ordinary being who has prepared these translations. Most of the English translation here is from the essays on the Gita. Sometimes he has done it himself or taken help from some other sources, depending on. And the book was published during Sri Aurobindo's lifetime, right? As we will continue and get back to essays on the Gita, the corresponding chapter, this is the Way and the Bhakta. It's in part 2 of the essays on the Gita. तो उस पे जब आएंगे तब आएंगे. but for now in this session, we will just try to read and understand these verses. Okay. Yeah. So 12.13 Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Adveshta Sarvabhutanam Maitrah Karuna Evacha Nirmamo Nirahankarah Samadukha Sukha Kshami. All these verses, when they are followed, and as I said it, I mean, because India is in that sense predominantly, bhakti country, a heart country, it's just there to be found. The bhakti may be of different levels, but it is fundamentally a psychic nation that way, right? So it's there in our personalities, in our behavior, but obviously when we read it consciously, so it becomes more powerful, and this will help. The practice of these verses will help जो अपना objective है integral yoga में to bring the psychic being forward. This is why we are reading them in this series, right? So adveshta sarvabhutanam maitrah karuna evacha nirmamo nirahankarah samadukha sukha kshami. Translation: He who has no egoism. Nirahankarah. Okay. If we understand the word ahankarah, two parts. Aham meaning I, kara coming from the kri dhatu, which means to do. So I do. Literally, that is what ahankara means. I do. ठीक है? गीता के 3.27 में the second stage of karma yoga, basically the second step of karma yoga, wherein it says ahankara vimudhatma kartaham iti manyate. Deluded by egoism, man thinks that he is the doer. The truth, the fact is that it's not our egoistic consciousness which is the doer. The doer is the divine. सिंपल भाषा में जो बोलते हैं, जो भी करने वाले हैं वो भगवान है. तो this is a fact, but we have to मतलब reach that level wherein we realize that.
Sense of doership.
Sense of doership has to go. Effortlessness basically. जो 4th chapter का एक वर्स है, कर्मण्य कर्मयः पश्येत अकर्मणि च कर्मयः सबुद्धिमान मनुष्येषु सयुक्तः कृत्स्न कर्मकृत. He who sees action in inaction. जो कुछ न होते हुए भी देखे कि कुछ हो रहा है. And even in the intensest activity, he who can feel that perfect inner silence, he is a perfect worker, he is a yogi. Like that, right? So
Narsi Mehta's Anmol I had pasted on the group. That's a very beautiful line of his poem in Gujarati, but it says, "Hu karu age aganyanata." Matlab, I do, that itself is ignorance.
Yes, exactly. It's ignorance. Absolute. That's why the word with Gita, vimudha, strong word. Ahankara vimudhatma. Karta aham iti manyate. Deluded by egoism. अहंकार से विमोहित होके या विमूढ़ित होके उसकी वजह से हमें लगता है कि हम कर रहे हैं. कर्ता अहम इति मन्यते. मन्यते means we think like that, right? So essentially what does it mean? कि we have to reach that state of effortlessness, and even higher than the effortlessness is a comparatively, you could say, secular word, right? But basically wherein we feel that it is the divine who is doing everything through us as his instrument. Right? So, nirmamo nirahang, he who has no egoism, nirahankara, no I-ness and my-ness, nirmama. Mama basically means mine. उसमें संस्कृत के हिसाब से चले षष्ठी एक वचन for the अस्मद, right? I का जो होता है उसमें mama means mine. Okay? So, he who has no egoism, no I-ness and my-ness, who has friendship and pity for all beings. I checked the translation. The word pity is used by Sri Aurobindo himself. So, Maitraha Karuna Evacha. For all beings, and hate for no living being. This is very important. When the vital is strong and when somebody does not do something which we want according to us, the tendency can be there. No, dveshana. No. 11th chapter के एंड में भी गीता क्लियरली कहती है कि he who hates anybody, he cannot attain to me. मुझे वर्स अभी याद नहीं आ रहा. 11:55 है the last verse of the 11th chapter, right? यहाँ पे अद्वेष्टा सर्वभूतानाम, he who has no dvesha for anybody. 11th के एंड में I'm just opening the verse. निर्वैरः सर्वभूतेषु, जिसके अंदर किसी के भी प्रति कोई वैर नहीं है। इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट। वो कहीं ना कहीं कभी कभार छुपा हुआ रह जाता है। इट हैज फॉर द सीकर ऑफ yoga, for the seeker of union with the divine, he cannot afford to indulge this thing called vaira or dvesha within himself. He cannot do it. Very very simple, categorical. शास्त्र ये कह रहा है, and तस्मात् शास्त्रम प्रमाणम ते कार्या कार्य व्यवस्थितो. We should follow our life until that inner guru in us, that supreme guru, is fully awakened and dominant. We have to govern our life by a shastra like Gita.
अनमोल
Otherwise, our
भाई,
life can be in. Tell me.
ये अद्वेष जो वर्ड है, द्वे, so how does it break up? द्वे means two,
Dvish,
right?
dvish,
द्वे,
adveshta.
हाँ, is the negation, but dveshta, dvesha. So how does it break up? Dvesha, how do you break it up? द्वे means two, right? द्वी,
वो उतना
द्वे,
मुझे नहीं पता है. I
नहीं, अच्छा
think
अच्छा
मैं धातु श्योर नहीं हूँ, but maybe the dhatu is dvish. I'm not sure. You
अच्छा
can
अच्छा,
see
okay.
here in the dictionary, the thing is there. Adveshta, nominative singular of the masculine compound, noun adveshta. इसको further यहाँ break नहीं किया गया है. So,
अच्छा अच्छा, okay
but
okay, no problem.
dvesh is the word. And हाँ, correct. What you are saying is correct. When that sense of dvi will be there, कि ये मुझसे कुछ अलग है, that's what ईशा अपने 7th verse में कहता है. तत्र को मोहः कः
शोक,
शोकः
एकत्वम,
एकत्वम
हाँ,
अनुपश्यत.
करेक्ट करेक्ट.
तो जहां पे आपका वो एकत्वम जाएगा और ये द्विभाव आएगा कि दिस इज समथिंग. थैंक यू धवल भाई, दैट्स अ वेरी गुड इनसाइट एक्चुअली, कि ये कुछ और है, ये मैं नहीं हूं. राइट. योगेश भाई का जो फेवरेट वर्ड है, वननेस. राइट. सो व्हेन वी फॉल फ्रॉम दैट वननेस, अगेन इन द 18th चैप्टर गीता वुड से कि जो सात्विक बुद्धि होती है, दैट इज दैट विच रिगार्ड्स एवरीथिंग एज वन, जो सारी चीजों के अंदर एकत्व को देखती है. राइट. सो हाँ, द्वेष डेफिनेटली वो द्वि से आएगा. राइट. तैत्रीय उपनिषद सेज, उसका वर्स मुझे याद नहीं है, बट बेसिकली whatever it is that you think is separate from you, that will become a source of fear for you. Therefore, attain oneness. Attain to that consciousness of oneness. Attain to that consciousness of perfect unity.
So divisibility is what dvesha means.
Divisibility again वो द्वि से आ रहा है.
द्वि आ
आप
रहा है,
दिव
हाँ,
का वो देख रहे हैं, वो कहीं ना कहीं वो all in the मातृभाषा of all the languages in the world ultimately is Deva Bhasha, and Sanskrit is the closest to that Deva Bhasha.
and द्वंद्व also, द्वि,
हाँ, वही एग्जैक्टली
duality, हाँ.
एग्जैक्टली. और आप उसके, चलिए आप पीछे जा रहे हैं इतना, तो जो द साउंड है ना,
That means
द
to
का मतलब
divide, to
बेसिकली
break,
कट करने का होता
to
है.
cut, to break with force, इसलिए दंत.
एग्जैक्टली, टू कट विद फोर्स. करेक्ट.
ददामी,
ये
ददामी
all
also.
these things which we are saying, for those who are not so this thing familiar, it is from volume 14 of Complete Works of Sri Aurobindo, Vedic and Philological Studies. In that volume, Sri Aurobindo has gone into the depths of human language. Since we are reading Gita, I might as well say, he says in the same letter which I quoted earlier, I had a dwelling in the Parabrahman for several hours to Motilal Roy. In the same letter, he tells him, I think this experience happened to him on 15th August 1912, right? Therein he says that Sri Krishna is teaching me the origins of human speech. Just imagine. Sri Krishna himself directly, Sri Krishna is teaching me the origins of human speech, and by that knowledge, which I am gaining from him, I am supposed to give a reinterpretation of the Veda and the Vedanta. So, this is there in volume 36, I think page number 178, autobiographical.
And Anmol bhai, just for the benefit of everyone, dukkha also comes from here because we are living in
Correct.
divided consciousness.
Correct.
Correct. And danta, then dadami,
Correct.
buddhi yogam tam.
The again, na sense of separation. You are giving something to somebody.
Yes.
Right. So, yeah. He who has no egoism, no I-ness and minus, who has friendship and pity for all beings. The word for pity that is used here is karuna. Compassion is also used. And hate for no living thing, adveshta, who has a tranquil equality to pleasure and pain. सम दुख सुख, जो दुख और सुख में सम है, इक्वल है, शाब्दिक अर्थ ये है. नॉट कैरीड अवे बाय सुख and not too overly depressed by dukkha, who basically takes both of them in his stride, right? Who has a tranquil equality to pleasure and pain and is forgiving. Shami, very important word. Forgiving. Many times, no, this person did this to me, I will never forgive him. अरे कुछ नहीं है भैया, केवल ईगो का खेल आप खेल रहे हो. You're just on an ego trip. अच्छा, who is there to forgive? if you are one, then who is there to forgive?
Very true. Very true.
Then there is an aphorism of Sri Aurobindo, मैंने वहीं से सीखा था. He says
हाँ,
forgiveness is greatly praised by the Vaishnava and the Christian, but as far as I am concerned, who is there to forgive? माफ करने को है ही कौन यार, जब हुई मैं.
हाँ,
There is
सही
nobody
तो
but me.
it befits all, I mean, logic. मतलब सारे logic की जड़ यहाँ से है, मतलब
Exactly. Who is there to forgive?
yeah.
And that is why, those two verses of the Isha, they are so golden. Yastu sarvani bhutani atmanyevanupashyati
सर्वभूतेषु
sarvabhuteshu
चात्मानं
chatmanam tato na vijugupsyate yasmin sarvani bhutani atmaiva bhut vijanatah tatra ko mohah kah shoka ekatvam anupashyata. Without that reaching of that ekatvam, one can never be free from moha and shoka.
Yeah, but
So
Shama is the
Anmol,
first step, no? Though, but still, Anmol bhai, Shama
Obviously, वो हम
is
step
a
by step चल रहे हैं. See, Upanishads take it for granted that you already have some spiritual grounding.
yeah, okay, yeah,
Gita does not. Gita is very practical. Gita will teach
yeah,
you karma yoga, this and that. Upanishads are very concise and terse also. They
yeah,
don't
yeah.
explain. They already assume that you are already having some grounding in these ideas.
ये prerequisite वाली बात हो गई
Correct.
उसमें. हाँ.
So, somebody was
Anmol,
saying something.
yeah, there was a word for man that you read out, and you said that's the division or that's what separates. And earlier in one of the lectures, there was a concept saying there's man, buddhi, chit, and there, you broke it down and you said, look, man is separate from. So here is the man a compilation of all of those, or is it
Here,
chit is different?
man word कहाँ है इसमें?
You said now while you were in a previous line, you just now said there was a word man.
Okay.
अभी आपने जो
Okay.
if you so you said that this is man and that is the divisive aspect. You said it while just about 5-10 minutes back.
Mind is basically the divisive consciousness.
Correct,
आप
mind.
जो वो कह रहे हैं मन बुद्धि चित्त अहंकार, उसमें the proper word is actually manas. And
Okay,
that
so
is the
manas,
sense
chit,
mind.
buddhi is different from mind.
हाँ, नहीं, see again, आप वो English words आप और संस्कृत words को compare करेंगे तो then it becomes a little confusing. Okay, बुद्धि is mind basically means the whole mental consciousness. ठीक है, so buddhi is part of that in that sense. Okay, and buddhi is the discriminative power. When normally we say the Hindi word man, what we actually mean is the vital, जो चंचल है, जो यहाँ वहाँ भाग रहा है, या टेक्निकली अगर संस्कृत में देखें it means the sense mind and that is simply the इंद्रिय. तो आपने कुछ देखा और आपने जो आपने देखा उसके बेसिस पे you make a judgment, then that is not correct. That is simply following the manas. It is not following the buddhi like that.
Okay, so when you said mind here in the previous line, when you said it is not pertaining to the intellect or the chit, it is towards manas, which is what makes you think yourself as an individual.
Mind basically, अगर हम समझें फिर से mind basically means it's a divisive consciousness by definition, because it understands things only by breaking them. ठीक है, and उसमें भी अगर हम roots में जाएं, the word ma, from which even the word mind comes, the sound ma, it means limitation, finality, completion. It means limitation, whereas the truth is infinite. So the true consciousness is the consciousness of infinity. Are we having that consciousness of infinity? Okay, in some parts where we are very broad and all, but is it there completely? No. So mind by definition is something limited. Is that clear?
Right.
And naturally, divisive. It further fragments and breaks down and breaks down and breaks down. Mind is where the division starts basically.
Right. And when you talked about forgiveness and why that's really important.
Yes.
I mean, if we just look at the story of Mahabharata, Gandhari, when she sees utter destruction of a complete family, she goes to Krishna and she doesn't forgive him, right? She tells him, look, I curse you because you could have avoided that.
Yeah.
So the fact that she did not evolve to exhibit this quality that you read, if she would have forgiven him, it would have
been good for her spiritual growth. She was a great Shiva Bhakta. She was a very great Shiva Bhakta, and that is why she had certain powers. That is why when she opened her eyes and looked at her son, she was able to give him that blessing कि उसकी body वज्र की बन गई थी. So she was a great Shiva Bhakta. That's why I'm saying कि वो भक्ति अलग-अलग stages की हो सकती है. But what the Gita is teaching is the highest kind of bhakti, complete bhakti, जिसके बाद आपकी पर्सनालिटी में कोई imperfection नहीं रह जाए. And
Correct.
I
So
mean,
what
and
you're
it's
saying
not
is
easy to forgive. Sometimes,
right,
it's
right.
not easy to forgive. But why? The Gita, see, those who are intending to follow the Gita, gradually or slowly or मतलब whatever fast, they will understand कि ये मुझे एकदम एक perfect consciousness में ले जा रही है. Naturally, perfection is something which is not attained in a day. So one has to be patient and persevering as far when one comes to following the teaching of the Gita.
Correct.
Again
So
and again,
what?
one has to go through it.
So the exemplary behavior on her part was she should have not cursed Krishna and should have accepted that, look, my children deserved their fate and should have
Exactly.
been
She
at
was
peace with
blind.
it.
She was blind. Putra moha ki wajah se. She was blind towards the defects of. No, she was not completely blind. She was less blind as compared to her husband. But nonetheless, she was. वही ममा वाला भाव है ना कि वो मेरे बेटे को मारा तो वो निर्ममा कहाँ थी माइनस था ना उसमें.
Right, right, right.
She was
Perfect.
not in
Thanks.
that nirmama bhava, right? Okay. Anybody else has anything to say? Question, discuss, question, anything?
Small point on both.
Yes, sir, please.
We are in 12th chapter and it is being said in the battlefield.
Yes.
Now, Mike, is it not a question? Is it the word forgiving and not hating? So, can we assume that? No. Can we assume that Arjun was being taught how to fight the battle?
Yes, you can say that. He was being taught to kill these people without hating them.
So all the parameters of bhakti which are now being described,
yes,
should apply even to a Kshatriya
it
fighting
should absolutely. The scripture is given to a Rajarshi, it is given to a Kshatriya.
And it is a practical.
Absolutely.
Practical guide.
Actually, I'm very grateful
So
to you. It's a very important point that you are making. Despite all this bhakti and all this adveshta and all this, you are yet supposed to be the divine instrument and slave where necessary. Yeah. He's being told to be in that inner state, free from hatred and all, because he's basically being told to become the divine instrument. Maya hatan tvam jahi. Maya means by me. Hatan means killed. So they are already killed by me. This is 4 words from the 11th chapter, 1 verse. Verse मुझे याद नहीं आ रहा है. Tvam jahi. But you do, तुम मारो. You do the slaying bit. वो जही वो मारना तुम्हारा काम है. मेरे द्वारा already मारे जा चुके हैं. At that level, they are already killed. But you have to do the slaying. तुमको इनका सर काटना है या जो भी करना.
But Anmol,
this is very great, Arora ji. Thank you
very,
for
very great point.
Because when we go into the details, we forget the outer context. So Arora ji, thank you for doing this work of reminding us again and again that we need to come back to that original context from where all this has started. And look at it from that perspective. Really appreciate that.
Yeah, this is the
so
word.
Anmol, this forgiving. Anmol,
please go ahead. Yeah.
This forgiving, if you take it in that context, the fact that you have to forgive and yet fight, right? I mean, if you see he could have convinced them that, look, even if you don't give us 5 villages, they could have gone and forgiven. There, the forgive doesn't come. So this forgive seems to be, it's ambiguous to what the Lord, he wants you to forgive when he thinks it's fine, and he wants you to be the instrument when he thinks it's fine.
Here the forgiving is in the sense that their outer nature, that personality, the soul in everybody is pure and perfect, right? But somewhere it has got into a very, very asuric mode, right? And it has lost contact with that divine within themselves. So that part has to be forgiven. And it is actually a compassion that he's killing them because he's liberating them from a very dark state in which they are in. So when he kills them, he's actually freeing their, that divine entity within them from this dark body and dark karma in which they are trapped right now, so that their higher evolution, the aage ka unka evolution aage, because right now they are trapped. And actually, I mean, if you read the Mahabharata, it says clearly that at the beginning of this thing, many of these warriors on the negative side, they became possessed by dark entities. They became possessed by asuras. And आप उसके भी पहले का एकदम पढ़ें तो just as the Kauravas were the incarnation of gods, similarly some of the asuras उनके नाम वहां दिए हुए हैं. The Kauravas were the incarnation of these asuras. So they
So
have to be slain for their own good and for their own release from. सावित्री में एक लाइन है, their self chosen doom और कुछ उससे वो मुक्त हो रहे हैं. So the demons wept with joy. I'll quote that exact phrase later on. Yeah.
So what that indicates that forgiveness in the mental, physical, vital stage is different from the forgiveness in the psychic stage. See, आप अगर
Psychic
किसी
state,
को
there is nothing to forgive because when you are in the psychic being, you know that I am one with everybody. If you are
correct,
one
but
with the people,
you are still an individual. You're still an
you're still an
individual.
individual. Yeah, correct.
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 See, if you're not, see it categorically, the moment you're explaining this, all of these things are now only at the psychic level.
Correct.
Because if you go and tell
This
anybody
is the
that, look,
description of the
people,
psychic being. What is given in these verses, this is the description of the psychic being.
correct. So that means that the psychic forgiving is basically looking at the other one as a psychic persona, as
Exactly.
another psychic being, and
Exactly.
therefore it's forgiving. It's
Exactly.
not that you're forgiving him in the physical, vital,
No,
mental level.
no.
There he kills
If,
them.
if he was forgiving in that sense, then he will not be able to kill them.
Correct.
Then
correct. Okay,
the
now this makes
purpose
sense.
of falsehood is like in second chapter of the mother, he says no, it defies its own truth. Falsehood, meaning if it were to yield to all falsehood, it would defy its own purpose.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
Anmol bhai, just because
Very
this
appropriate quotation. Thank you, Dhaval bhai.
no problem. I just recalled that. But since Yogesh bhai talked about this war and this context, even if we have read this in I think chapter 4 or whatever of our essays on the Gita. I don't remember the exact chapter, but where Sri Aurobindo says Gita takes the position in struggles and battles that this is a war of adharma over dharma. So not about 5 villages.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
adharma belongs to the lower. So as long as whatever be your state, Brahmi sthiti or psychic consciousness.
If it were a question of only 5 villages, why would the rest of the people go and join the Pandavas side? They would not.
Correct.
तुम्हारा war है personal, तुम लड़ो, हम क्यों उसमें अपनी जान कट गवाएं?
Correct. So in that
Okay, they
sense,
might have some vested interest. Nobody, कि वो human being कोई भी दूध का धुला नहीं होता है. So, some are having their own vested interest, कि maybe if they will conquer, we will also become bigger and all. That is fine. But essentially, it is a war between dharma and adharma.
it is
Dharma
that.
kshetre kurukshetre. That is the Gita begins with that. Dharma kshetre kurukshetre samaveta yutsava.
And in chapter, Sri Aurobindo clearly states that is the purpose of war. Otherwise, it outlives its own usefulness.
Absolutely.
So,
And as
on
long
that case,
as
Anmol,
the struggle, yes, sir, please go on.
yeah, I'm saying that means that at the psychic level, you are aware that I went through this pain. Like Draupadi lost her children, right? And you have to be at that level of oneness that you realize that I lost my children because I've done something in return, and this is a outcome. So it's balancing at the psychic level. So he had to do his part at the physical, mental, vital. I had to do my part at it and suffer the loss of my children. So therefore I forgive. Because at the physical, mental, vital, you're doing a game where can anybody, because if you see Mahatma Gandhi, when he says, look, you slap me and you slap me again, everybody else thought that, look, how can
said
you
he
be
was a
that
Russian
part of
Christian in an
non-violence?
Indian body. As far as Gandhiji is concerned, Sri Aurobindo's comment is, he was a Russian Christian in an Indian body. He was heavily influenced by Tolstoy. Also, I think by Jainism. Not I think, I'm sure. He was influenced by Jainism. Vaishnav jana to होगा, but वो Vaishnavism के अंदर ना, the form that Vaishnavism took after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, after the Bhakti movement and all, उसके अंदर से वो Kshatra element has become suppressed. It's only about Ananda and joy and forgiving and all that. But it's not possible. I mean, you will become incapable of defending yourself.
Right.
I mean,
Now
because of
there's
Gandhi's
clarity.
influence and the first prime minister was his chela, so he kind of disbanded the army and everything. So we lost part of the Aksai Chin territory to China just like that. Was that supposed to happen? No.
Right. Makes sense. Absolutely. Thanks.
And I will just add, so if strong people like Patel were not there and threatened the richest state in India, Hyderabad at that time, कि तुम surrender करो वरना, and the army actually entered. So if you follow those policies of non-violence, then you basically keep losing territory and you become weaker and weaker. And then the kshetra, the bhumi that is chosen by the divine for the protection of dharma, that bhumi itself is lost. Then what? From a disembodied state, are you going to protect dharma? You cannot do it. In order to protect dharma, first of all, you need to be there in a strong terrestrial form. Otherwise, dharma cannot be protected on this plane. And this is the most important plane because this is where evolution happens. Right?
Patel, very strong vital. Patel, very strong vital.
Chalo. So shall we move to the next verse?
Yeah.
Arora ji, boliye.
A small point, I think Dhaval just now referred to some chapter of essays on Gita, maybe fourth, fifth, where the word, Sri Aurobindo uses the word righteous method.
Yes.
Now, my small submission is who to decide that this is righteous and this is unrighteous?
Divine. The divine consciousness within you.
So then it becomes a question of whole society, whole country. It's not a question of my having
Correct.
the definition of righteous, whether Kauravas were right or
The word right comes from originally from the Sanskrit word rit. And rit means truth in motion, truth in action.
Only a small, narrow-minded questioning. I put it
No. Nothing like that. Nothing. We are all discussing here freely.
Finally, who will decide that this is righteous battle for me? And now Kauravas who are fighting the other side. Or let us take an example of forces working under Pandavas or forces working under Kauravas. Tat Akshoni or Gair Akshoni.
Yeah.
Now, Gair Akshoni agar Kauravon ki, all of them were fighting in non-righteous battle? I don't know.
Their sense of right was,
not
right. जो उनका sense of right था. The dharma, the right is different for different people according to their level of maturity. And उसमें कई चीजें हैं. How honest are you?
The question of Swadharma.
Question of Swadharma भी नहीं है. देखिए.
एक मिनट, let me complete.
हाँ, please.
So everybody's Swadharma is different. My Swadharma is my Swadharma, your Swadharma is different.
There is something called the divine dharma, no? There is that Satyam Ritam Brihat which is governing the universe. Which वो rhythm जो बोलते हैं ना वो rhythm से ही आता है. तो there is something which is keeping the universe in order. अगर आप उस rhythm के against जाएंगे, rhythm जो है that is the highest dharma. Then you will be decimated.
For a soldier of Kauravas, his loyalty and his duty.
His loyalty is towards the people who are paying him his salary.
No, whether salary or whatever is the
format. Whatever.
So that is his dharma.
That is his dharma.
Or like one of the Kauravas, I think Yuyutsu or Vikaran. He said, I will not fight for you. I am dissenting.
Yuyutsu,
and but in the Draupadi story, the Vikarana goes out of the court, saying that all of you are wrong. See,
it's basically about, again, जो आपके जो बात का जवाब है ना, that is there in the 16th chapter of the Gita, Deva and Asura Prakriti. So the other side is, आप अगर असुरा प्रकृति के लक्षण पढ़ें in the 16th chapter, they are totally dominated by the asura prakriti. And what is the asura prakriti? That is basically the rajoguna and the tamoguna. And predominantly rajoguna के बस मैं और मैं, मेरे अलावा कुछ नहीं, सब कुछ बस मैं खा जाऊं, literally. And that leads to disaster.
There is no disagreement on this. I am looking at from the individual point of view. What is my dharma? If I were there at that time, and I was in Kauravas and I knew all this, what will I do? I'm just, I don't know, hypothetical.
Again, कि वही ना आपका वो consciousness कितना developed है.
Exactly, I was about
how developed is your own consciousness? आपका psychic being कितना developed है? If it is not developed, then obviously, whatever is your best sense of right, you are going to function according to that. It goes without saying.
See, that is what we had studied also, na, Aroda ji. Up till 4th chapter, Sri Aurobindo says that Sri Krishna is raising his consciousness from where he has fallen into. And he's asking him to act from above all of this.
No, I agree. Yes, I am talking of the same.
So righteousness definition will change at that time.
Dronacharya, for example, he's a great teacher and everything, very respect worthy. But what does he say? There was a time when I had to, वो मतलब चावल को पीस करके पानी मिला के अपने बेटे को देना पड़ता था दूध के नाम पे. और अभी मेरी गौशाला में सहस्रों गांव हैं. And it is all because of the Kauravas. So it was his loyalty to the throne of Hastinapur. And obviously that is not who is your master? Who is your true Swami? Your true Swami is Sri Krishna, who is standing there in the battlefield. Instead of serving him, you are serving the throne. Then you are a fool basically. And you need to be killed. And you need to be killed by whatever means.
Same thing with Karna also. His indebtedness to Duryodhana.
चलो we done this session for psychic. ठीक है, it's all part of that. I understand. But shall I move to the
अनमोल
next verse? हाँ, somebody,
अनमोल आई वुड
बोलिए.
लाइक टू या अच्छा एक बात बताओ द थिंग इज दैट all the people that I come across, all the people, one and all, they say कि my conscience is clear, I am very clear, I am very good. सबको
That is
ये
sattvic ego.
who
That is sattvic
ever
ego.
मतलब like you know I fail to understand that people with who've done evidently so wrong in their life, you know, it is on their face, yet if you talk to them they will see कि मेरी conscience clear है,
नहीं,
मेरे को लगता है somehow सबके
deluded
आंखों
है,
में जो एक
deluded
पट्टी
है.
पड़ी हुई है और सब अपने आप को अपना सत्य समझा लेते हैं किसी ना किसी तरीके से कि मैं ठीक हूँ.
वो delusion है. They are in the condition of moha. They need to read the Gita seriously.
Yeah, it's evident, you know, it's so evident, it's
Well,
clear written.
that is the darkness of the human consciousness. Ignorance, darkness, tamoguna, all those things. And why
I
your
just
ego,
fail to
basically that
understand
ahankara,
this.
that ego, you know कि मैं गलत नहीं हो सकता, I cannot be wrong. नहीं आता.
नहीं, कहीं ना कहीं उन्होंने अपने आप को समझाया हुआ है और अपने आप को लॉजिकली समझा लेते हैं कि मैं क्यों ठीक हूं. I've got not one but so many
That
cases,
is
you know.
the self-deception in the, you know, mind. The sometimes when people become more intelligent, तो उनकी intelligence इस तरह grow करती है, how to justify their action to themselves. I mean, that is why I am saying the necessity of reading the Shastras. Gita, matlab, in all Hindu homes, almost all Hindu homes, the Gita is there. But in how many of those homes is the Gita, you know, even read or seriously read? Very few. It's
And
pathetic.
honestly, Indians all over the, like, you know, I'm sorry to say that, but Indians, they cannot be trusted.
नहीं, ऐसा नहीं है. That is
ऐसा
an
है, ऐसा है.
overstatement. नहीं. See,
मेरे को बहुत अफसोस होता है जब मैं सुनती हूँ और मैं ये सब देखती हूँ. Really, my
नहीं,
heart is,
देखिए,
my heart bleeds.
fundamentally, if you want to say, then the human consciousness is the same everywhere. ठीक है? And different levels
Human
of
nature
consciousness,
same है.
people will be
हाँ.
found in all countries, right?
Yes,
But
yes.
overall, if you want to say, there is that heart ka development, that bhakti and all, which is natural in Indians, and the sense of love and oneness is naturally ingrained in Indians. Spirituality जो है वो उनके अंदर ingrained है. And so that is why, I mean,
And thanks to social media these days, हर घर में discourses होते हैं, you know. That I totally agree with you, कि given the fact, the kind of disparity that we have in our country, you know,
yeah,
the kind of gap between the haves and the have-nots is so evident
yeah.
that despite that इतनी चोरी चकारी नहीं है, yet you are safe in this country.
इसके लिए भी वही गीता ना, in the 3rd chapter,
हाँ,
so it
I
says कि
agree.
जो केवल अपने लिए संग्रहित करते हैं, and those who do not give back to the universe, they are thieves. So that's why Sri Aurobindo इतना strong एक aphorism है where he says, these public charities are the first tardy awakening in the conscience of a robber. कि first you just hoard and hoard and hoard money, and then you become very charitable and philanthropic and think you are such a great person. Nothing like that. They are the first tardy awakening in the conscience of a robber. Where was your conscience when you were just accumulating blindly without any sense of dharma? So I'll share that aphorism. It is very hard hitting.
और सब कहते हैं सबका अपना अपना सत्य है. जैसे आई थिंक सब कहते हैं सबका अपना
सबका
अपना
अपना
सत्य
अपना
है.
सत्य है, तो फिर भगवान सबके साथ उनके अपने अपने तरीके
बट
से
मैं
या
ये
उनका
बट
कर्मा
मैं
उनके तरीके से उनके साथ डील भी करता है. And you know,
आई होप
they have
सो.
to undergo a lot of suffering. And मतलब
हाँ.
you do see, papa is defined in the Upanishad as duritani. Okay,
Yes.
दूर word जो हिंदी का है ना, अंजलि जी ने सिखाया था हमको भी,
Yes,
इष्टा उपनिषद
yes,
वगैरह. तो the
yes.
more you go away in your consciousness from the divine within you, the more you slip and sink into evil and papa. And things will reach such a point, 16th chapter में गीता में आता है, क्षिपाम यजस्रम अशुभान आसुरीष्वेव योनिषु. So, you know, it's a very dark state of consciousness anyway. So, anyway, जो
बट मैं ये
इसमें
कहती हूँ जैसे सब कहते हैं कि सबका अपना अपना ट्रूथ है, बट मेरे दिमाग में बात आती है नहीं, ट्रूथ तो एक ही है.
truth, exactly, truth
हाउ
एक
कैन
ही
द ट्रूथ
है.
बी डिफरेंट, यू नो. सबने अपने को ख्याल में अपने समझाया हुआ है, वो बात और है.
All these are just egoistic justifications. You don't want to make the effort to, you know, improve yourself. अब वो बेसिकली वो जो ईगो है ना उसमें फंसे हुए. किसी चैप्टर जो गीता का है ना, दैट आसुरिक नेचर, कि आई एम राइट, आई कैन नॉट बी रॉन्ग, यू नो, आई विल एंजॉय दिस दैट, उसमें आई विल गिव, मैं दूंगा, मैं कितना बड़ा दानी हूं, This comes in the 16th chapter. ये सब आसुरिक है. Yeah.
हम सबको फॉरगिव करके अभी आगे बढ़ सकते हैं अंबर जी. क्योंकि
see, in our
हर
group,
एक
discussions are inevitable.
हर एक की कॉन्शियसनेस अपने हिसाब से राइट है, तो वो उनका
And
स्तर
जी,
है.
इसमें the
तो
main point पता
हम
है क्या?
फॉरगिव करते. चलो.
Yeah. Sorry, Dhaval
Sorry
bhai.
to bring up
No
trivial
problem.
points,
नहीं,
but
इसमें what we
for
can
me,
take out,
they are very
what we can
important,
take out, what we can take out, all of us individually. See, to each his own. जिसको जो सूट करना है, जो जैसे जीना चाहता है जिए. Everybody is free. Okay? भगवान सबके नियंता है, हम किसी के नियंता नहीं है. Right? But
बिल्कुल
as for
बिल्कुल.
ourselves, we should study the Gita seriously and follow it in life. Then we will really understand what is true, what is dharma, what is really the higher consciousness, and grow towards it. Otherwise, we are just groping in the dark.
Anmol, I agree with what you're saying because with whatever we've read so far, if you do not evolve to being a psychic entity, if you're not a psychic being, if you are focused on the mind, the physical vital, you will not be able to forgive because you're
Exactly.
separate from the other.
Exactly.
So again and again, if you say, would the psychic being and a psychic entity not forgive? Would a psychic being and a psychic entity not feel oneness? The moment you cross this hurdle of these three, the moment you cross the hurdle of not being in the mental plane but move to the psychic being, psychic entity,
Exactly.
automatically your oneness is experienced. Automatically you will forgive. Automatically there'll be karuna. Everything works there.
Exactly.
So the clarity of not, इतना पढ़ने के बाद, इतना सुनने के बाद, अगर हमको ये ख्याल नहीं आ रहा कि अभी भी मैं माइंड में हूं, अभी भी मैं एक सेपरेट एंटिटी हूं, तो मैं आई कैन नेवर एक्सपीरियंस फॉरगिवनेस दिस दैट बिकॉज आई एम नॉट addressing the fundamental issue that I am not the mental, vital, physical being.
Absolutely.
You have to transform and see mood एकदम ultimate source क्या है, सबसे बड़ा क्या क्लैरिटी नहीं है जिसकी वजह से फिर ये क्वेश्चंस आ रहे हैं. Because I'm still identified as a separate being.
Exactly.
The moment you transcend, the moment you cross over and you become a psychic being, you understand that it is not a division, there is oneness. अगर अभी feel नहीं भी हो रहा है तो पहले you endure it, then you look at equality, and then there will be ecstasy because I'm separate, because I'm mind, therefore I'm stuck. But एक ही source है जो darkness में रख के बैठा है. That is where the problem is.
Ego, the sense of division. Correct. 9:04. What should we do? Should we stop here because it's already an hour?
Just read the next verse so that it dwells in our head, and then we must stop. Maybe. I don't know. I'm thinking aloud.
No problem. No problem. And yeah. Santushtah Satatam Yogi. In fact, I'll just read the previous one again, the Sanskrit and the English. Adveshta Sarvabhutanam Maitraha Karuna Evacha Nirmamo Nirahankaraha Samadukha Sukha Kshami. He who has no egoism, no I-ness and minus, who has friendship and pity for all beings and hate for no living thing, who has a tranquil equality to pleasure and pain and is forgiving, he is dear to me. So, yeah. He is dear to me, ये बाद में आ रहा है, इसमें वो संस्कृत नहीं है. So verse 13 and 14 are read together actually, right? संतुष्टः सततं योगी यतात्मा दृढ़निश्चयः मयि अर्पितमनो बुद्धिर यो मद्भक्तः समे प्रियः. He who has a desireless content, the steadfast control of self, and the firm, unshakable will and resolution of the yogin, and a love and devotion which gives up the whole mind and reason to me, he is dear to me.
Wow.
I think in order to dwell on this, we will need some time. So, shall we take it up next time?
Yes, let's take it up next time.
before we close, just a minute or two. Anybody has any questions, anything you want to say? Any question, any doubt, anything, even any comment, anything? No? Okay. We'll close with silence. The word here is santushta and not tushta, which means satisfied. Santushta means completely satisfied. Yeah. इसमें सम is the prefix, सम meaning total, and तुष is the धातु, उसी से तोषा आता है, तुष्यति.